Hello everyone, welcome to Honkai Impact the Rewind, and in this video, we'll recap what happens in Chapter 4 of the Honkai Impact 3rd story. Now Chapter 4 is rather straightforward and direct, but there are quite a bit of lore drops that happens, so first, let's do a recap, then we'll discuss some of the lore. That's anything from just interesting to pretty deep things that we should think about going forward into the game's story. Following Chapter 3, where Bronya basically kidnapped Wendy and Mei under the command of Cocolia, Kiana, Himeko, and Teresa groups together to infiltrate the HQ building of ME Corporation. ME Corp is where Cocolia is currently operating out of. But as the girls are circling around the building to find a way inside, they realize it's pretty difficult because of just how heavily guarded the facility was. But while the girls were frustrated and were considering a retreat for the time being, out of nowhere Bronya contacts the girls and tells them that she can try to help them get inside. Obviously Himeko is suspicious of Bronya because, well, she's the reason why this was all happening in the first place, but Bronya continuously suggests that she wants to help, and Kiana, feeling that she isn't lying, they decide to accept her assistance and are directed to Building C7. Now when they reach Building C7, Bronya proceeds to hack the entrance to let the girls inside and directs them towards the location of Mei. And amidst all this, we learn that the researchers working under Cocolia are attempting to surgically remove Mei's Herrscher core. You know, the thing that's inside of Mei that's making her go crazy? So the girls starts making their way towards Mei as quickly as possible, which eventually leads them into Cocolia's trap. But funnily, although the girls did fall into a trap, they basically just unga bunga and decides to ravage through the entire facility, destroying everything in their path to get to Mei. Surprisingly, after grueling amounts of combat, it actually ends up working without any issues, and the girls finally arrive where Mei was being restrained. And upon arrival, they finally get a better understanding of Cocolia's plans. She basically wants to harness the power of the Herrschers to control the forces of nature and to advance human technology. So to stop the girls from rescuing Mei, Cocolia commands Bronya to stop the girls once again. But this time, Bronya refuses because she no longer wants to hurt Mei and the girls. She then decides to burn her own biochip that's been controlling her this entire time, which completely catches Cocolia off guard and surprises her because burning this biochip effectively means frying out her own brain. But since Bronya values Mei's life more than her own, she goes through with it and tells Kiana to take Mei away. After the crazy decision made by Bronya, Mei finally wakes up and is shocked to see her in critical condition, where Kiana explains that she's now in a coma. Teresa suggests that they might be able to save her once they get back to St. Freya High School, but amidst all this, Cocolia is pissed off about losing Mei, so she decides to speed up her experimentations on the fourth Herrscher, Wendy. With Mei now on their side, the girls proceed deeper into the facility to save Wendy, but as they make their way into the depths of ME Corporation, the girls begin to receive messages from Wendy. Now if you carefully listen to the context of these messages, these are basically dying messages. For example, the first message is Wendy wanting to tell Bronya that she doesn't hate her anymore as she learned that Bronya was being controlled this entire time. Wendy then questions Teresa about the identity of the person who first suggested that Wendy takes part in this Gem of Desire experiment, to which Teresa confirms that it was actually her all along. But instead of having animosity towards Teresa, Wendy decides to thank her for all the troubles and guidance that she's given her in the past. And finally, Wendy tells Kiana, hey, this Gem of Desire thing actually helped me walk a couple days ago, so maybe it's powerful enough to help Bronya with her current conditions? But if you really think about it, this Gem of Desire is inside of Wendy, so Wendy telling Kiana to make sure she grabs it, you get the idea. Now, putting behind all these obvious, literal farewell messages, when the girls finally do arrive to the deepest parts of the research lab, it turns out Cocolia has already murdered Wendy literally off screen. She then claims that the Gem of Desire has been effectively extracted and removed from Wendy, which she then used to power a gigantic mecha named MSR7 Watan. And during this insanity, the girls begin to fight off the robot.
苦戦の末、ネゲントロピーの重装戦術機構デウスを撃破したキアナたちは ME 社本部からの脱出に成功した。メイを取り戻すことはできたが、ウェンディは帰らぬ人となり、ブローニャも昏睡状態に陥っている。聖フレイヤ学園の技術をもってしても彼女を助けることはできなかった。 ブローニャを救いたいテレサは聖フレイヤ学園の中央教会へ向かうことにした。その地下には天命組織最高のバイオ技術が眠っている。それは学園長ですら知らない機密事項であった。
So that's the entirety of chapter 4. Now I do wanted to talk about some of the interesting lore bits that popped up in this chapter. Basically some confirmations about few foreshadowings, as well as some big picture ideas that are finally being showcased through the game's storytelling. So in the previous chapter, Kiana was asked by several people regarding what occurred to Bronya during their mission on battleship Selene. And back then, it was hard to discern whether Kiana was just being clueless or ignorant of the situation. But in this chapter, during the conversation with Teresa, it's confirmed that Kiana did in fact keep the secret about Bronya being mind controlled from everyone to protect Bronya. So regardless of how much they bicker with one another, it becomes obvious that Kiana still wants to protect her friends. Also in this chapter, we learned that Teresa is now confirmed to be part Kaslana. Essentially, she was created inside of a lab with Kaslana genetic makeup, which explains her white hair and her growth being stunted because of the byproduct of scientific experimentation. And of course, we do learn that she used to be very strong Valkyrie herself, enough to be offered the position of an S-rank Valkyrie, but apparently she refused for personal reasons. And lastly, the most interesting thing that stood out for me in this chapter is the discussion of morality and ethics between the Shikso organization and Anti-Entropy. While fighting against the mechs during the infiltration, Kiana remarks that if they could get a hold of these mechs, all Valkyries like herself could probably retire. Teresa clarifies that the Shikso has already tried, but failed, and the most stable and efficient method they found in combating the Honkai was for girls to be a living vessel that carries the Honkai inside of their bodies and become a Valkyrie themselves. The only problem was that their bodies would continuously be corrupted and their lifespan would be reduced. But on the flip side, Teresa elaborates that Anti-Entropy refuses to use humans as vessels and continuously tries to use robots instead to fight off the Honkai. To which Teresa claims that maybe the leaders of Anti-Entropy are more human than that of the leaders of the Shiksos, and this ethical and moral conflict is one of the big friction points between the Shikso and Anti-Entropy as we progress throughout the story. But regardless of which side is making the right choices, Teresa tries to tell Kiana that justice is often met by another form of justice, basically meaning everybody has their own sense of right and wrong, and following this, she suggests that Kiana should follow her own sense of justice and stick with the ideals of Kaslana to protect others above everything else. So following their experiences in ME Corporation, what will happen to Bronya? Will she be able to recover? What's going to happen to the girls from here on out? I'll see you in the next episode of Honkai Impact Rewind, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe for recaps in the future. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.